Thank you. This is, I think, my favorite presentation of the year because I get to feel like Santa Claus coming early, maybe, or something along those lines. We have been doing a tremendous amount of work. I'm the Jewish Santa Claus. We've been doing a tremendous amount of work for the last 2 to 3 months, and to try to distill that down into a 40-minute presentation has been immensely difficult. I feel that with every feature I show you, it takes me maybe 10 or 15 seconds to show something, and that could sometimes mean 2 or 3 weeks of work. And so I hope I do it justice. I hope you enjoy it. One of the things that I'm most excited about is that I'm going to be joined for this presentation by someone else. This is a person I've been working with for almost 2 years, over 2 years, 2.5 years. This is someone that the first time I met, I knew was super talented, and I also knew that he applied for the wrong job. And thank God he applied for another job later, because then he applied for the right job. And we have been very lucky to have him. And not only did he start, but over the last couple of years, he's really figured out where his passion lies in KaiNexus. And that's one of the things that we love, is we have allowed people to kind of evolve in their careers and actualize their potential. And so it was hinted at before, but I'm officially announcing that Ryan Rippey is transitioning to product manager essentially right now. So please. So he will be coming up and introducing some of these features, and I think it is remarkable that we have the sophisticated enough technology platform, and we haven't had a full-time dedicated product manager other than a crazy CEO that has been scraping along and trying to keep it all in his head. And so I think it's going to be a huge value add for all of our customers, and we are an avid user of KaiNexus as well, so it'll actually help us internally. So without further ado, let's get into the 2.4 sneak peek. Every year we take the opportunity at the user conference to change a very important number, and that's the number that comes after 2 in the release cycle. We do a little bit of joking because when you do a continuous release, it's almost arbitrary. But what we do for the user conference is we kind of take a step back and we think, okay, what are some larger scale problems we're trying to attack in the software? And we try to look thematically over areas. And so we've done that with every user conference where we've taken either a part or several parts of the platform and really kind of done a big leapfrog. 2.4 is no different. We have been working on this since somewhere around July. So this is, if y'all have been with us for a while, this is what we would call a huge release. I can't do it with the fingers, but this is going to be a huge release. There are over 60 enhancements in this release alone. I'm going to try to highlight a little over 20 of them. I'm going to do it thematically. I mentioned earlier, I think it may have been yesterday, that when Matt and I first conceived of the product, the word board didn't exist anywhere. And now we have an average of 50 to 60 public boards in all of our customers. We have a couple of customers that have over 1,000 boards. Needless to say, the blue picker does not support navigating well in 1,000 boards. So we really tried to figure out a way we could start solving this. So this is the blue picker that we all know and love. Probably needs a better name, but we've just always called it the blue picker because it's blue and you pick where you want to go. But this is fairly confusing. I mean, look at the number of nested areas you can go. You don't really know where you're at. You don't know where you've come from. You don't know where you're going. So we're actually on this a board here called standard boards. And we do and have given a little bit of context with this back navigation. That's basically the extent of what we refer to in the computer software parlance as a breadcrumb. So Jamie talked about the bad breadcrumbs. This is a good breadcrumb. And I am happy to introduce board breadcrumbs. So now not only do you know where you are, you know where you can go, and you know where you've been. So you see the entire tree structure. And if you click on one of the arrows, you can see the boards that you can advance on without having to go back through the entire board picker. And if you click on the back arrow, you can see where you could go backwards in it. This is a much easier way to figure out how you can navigate forwards and backwards in KaiNexus. So, board breadcrumbs. Yeah. You have been able to nest or put into folders public boards from day one. I don't know why we thought private boards were less important, but we've noticed that some people have a lot of private boards and they want to go ahead and put them in folders or nest them. And so in 2.4, you will be able to nest private boards. So what does that mean? Right here, I have 5 private boards that no one else can see that I've made for myself. What if I want to give a little structure to them? And so with the ability to nest these 5 private boards, we can make our blue picker look something like this. And now they're all in there. Go ahead. You have no idea how hard all of this is to design and code and release. And so please, we love hearing claps. The nested board card is a great concept, right? If you want to see all the boards that are kind of downstream of where you're at, you can just click this button and put in nested boards. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if you could just pick whatever boards you want to put in a card? And so you can now, with a freestyle card, we made a really simple way to choose which board you want to put in. And then when you put them in, you can essentially make your own board list and put in whatever boards very easily you want to on a card. So that's board links. And by the way, if you want to just open up a board without completely committing to it by opening it up in a new tab, you can just right-click on that board and you get the open in a new tab. And that also works on items. And if you are really moving around and looking around, this is a huge plus. And so we thought, okay, we've done a lot with board navigation at this point. We've allowed you to really organize quite a bit more. I want to give a little bit more personalization to the structure that you're looking at. So this is an example of a board picker. I really don't want to see this public admin board, so maybe I personally just want to hide it. Well, you can do that now with hiding and promoting. This is the admin board. I'm going to go ahead and hide it. The way you're going to do that is you're going to go over to your board ellipse. You now have 2 buttons there. These are your personal promote and hide buttons. And when you hide a board, it will take it off of your board picker. So just more personalization to your board navigation experience. And you would have probably been happy there, right? You would have thought, oh my gosh, Greg, what you and your team have done to the board navigation in KaiNexus is tremendous. But we decided it's a little cumbersome still to manage all of the boards through the board picker. Wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of board management area that you could go to? And so we decided to make a new area called Manage Boards, and it is basically like a tree structure of all of your boards. You can see public boards, you can see your private boards, and you can search for whatever board you want. So for example, if you're looking for a pick chart board, you can just type the word pick and boom, all of your boards with the word pick come up. And right in line, all of the options that you would normally get on your board ellipse are right there. So if you want to copy, edit, share, make this your default, hide that board, make that board, promote that board, you can do all of that right in line. And you can even just drag and drop the boards here to change the order of your boards. There's a lot more we did with boards that don't have to do with navigation. I just want to let you know that if you have a lot of Kanban cards on a board, we've improved the performance of those significantly. With all of the reports now that we've added to the boards, especially all of the reports that have columns, you can now control which columns you want on all of your leaderboards to show up and make those a preference within the card or the report. We are giving more ability to give people permission to manage boards in certain areas of your organization. We didn't dream how complex people's organizations were, and we thought we'll give everyone the global board admin permission. They can just do what they want. Turns out that's not a great idea. And so now you'll be able just to give board admin privilege to a certain area of your organization. And we not only will show you the board owner, but we'll let you edit the board owner. And if you have managed boards for a lot, you'll understand the significance of that, and you'll be delighted with it. So that is boards in 2.4. Let's move to search. So we invested a lot in our search, the power of our search in general. About 3 years ago, we literally took our entire search engine out and put a supercharged search engine in. With 2.4, we upgraded the motor of that supercharged search paradigm, which is called Elasticsearch for any of you geeks out there. And it is going to make not only search work even better than it did with its relevance, but it's also we also adjusted a number of algorithms. And so for me, it's wonderful because I don't know how to spell anything, and I still just use the search and it still comes up almost like a Google search. And so there's going to be some great performance improvements with search. We didn't stop there because sometimes you search for the same thing over and over. And so we decided, what if we just gave you a search history? And so if you hover over this area, you'll get a little hover to discover, like, oh, this is the search history. And then when you click on it, you will see all of your most recent searches, and you'll be able just to click on that search and not have to retype it. When you're in the search panel, sometimes you search for something and it's looking through projects and improvements and incidents and tasks, and you know it's an improvement and you just want to get rid of everything else. So now when you hover over one of the workflows or things that you're looking for, you're going to get this only button. And if you click on the only button, all of the other ones immediately go away. So those are just a few of the search things that we did. Next, we completely ripped apart lists. I've gone as far as to say we've done a complete list refactor, as evidenced by. So let's go ahead and take a look at what a current list picker looks like. When we designed it, we thought this made total sense and worked. But if you start looking at it, it's incredibly complicated. We did some analytics, and there wasn't many people clicking way deep down into these listing structures. And so we decided maybe we didn't do the best initial design, and we thought, well, what are all these structures doing? Well, they're really just kind of creating a couple different filters, right? It's just a kind of a location or a person filter, a status filter, and a workflow filter. So instead of making you with your cursor kind of move there, what if we got rid of all of that nastiness and didn't go into all those substructures? But then what if we just put that quick filter right on the top of your list, and you could just do things like I would like a list of everything I'm responsible that's active in whatever workflow. And boom, there you have your list. This is way faster, trust me. I've been using it for the last couple weeks and you're gonna love it. So comments are one of the most powerful ways people communicate in KaiNexus. We talk about really trying to get out of email. Email is great for, hey, do you want to go to dinner tonight? And maybe get a collection of people. If you want to have a transparent conversation that you want to access about an improvement project that might take a week or two, that might include 5 or 6 people, then emails are a horrible way to communicate. They were never intended to. So comments do that. And we think that we have really just scratched the surface prior to 2.4 with comments. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Ryan Rippey, who will talk to you about the improvements we're making to comments.
All right, let's talk comments. So as Greg mentioned, comments is a great feature in KaiNexus to help further the communication and collaboration on your items. Comments hopefully are being used to get out of email, get out of post-its, be able to potentially solve something without having to wait for a week to have a meeting on it. So let's take a look at the first enhancement to comments. So we had to start with just making the comment notifications more enhanced. So you're going to notice now that every time there's a new comment, when comments have been acknowledged, when comments have been liked, you're going to get unique notifications for those in your notification window. So you'll see here we have a new comment. You can see what that comment was, and you can also see who posted that comment, and of course be able to like and acknowledge directly from the notifications window. So let's take a look at what it looks like when we go ahead and click into that notification. You're going to notice that there's been some new comment activity. There is a distinct flag next to that new comment that we can see there. Look at Jeff using KaiNexus, gotta love to see that. And if you go ahead and hover over that, you can see that this is a new comment, so that's why you're seeing that flag, and you can go ahead and clear that individual comment by clicking on it, or you'll be able to clear all of the comment activity. There'll be a little X in the top for you to do as well. Now, the next thing that we did for comments is the ability to reply to comments. So maybe you want to have adding a little bit of chain of communication within the comment section. So here we're going to go ahead and click reply. And so now we have the opportunity to reply to Jeff's comment. We can post that, and here we go and see Jeff's wrote the comment, Greg has responded to it, and that will start to continue to have that chain of communication there in the comments section. We didn't stop there. We also have the ability to mention now in comments. So all you social media gurus out there, let's take a look at the mentioning. So what you're going to do in the comments section there, you can see that with the @ sign, and then as you start to type in the name of the person in KaiNexus, it's going to pull up that user. You'll be able to select them. And then once you go ahead and add their name and the rest of the comment and post that, you'll have this nice mention available here in the comments section as well. And so what's that going to look like from a notification standpoint? So we come back to the notifications, first slide that I mentioned. All of these comment notifications are unique and they're all being flagged now. So you'll see when you've been mentioned in a comment, you'll see what the comment was, and you'll see the in reply to there, if you'll be able to hover over that and see what the original comment was for those replies that we took a look at earlier. And last but not least, you have the ability to now pin comments. So maybe there is a specific comment there within the comments area that you want to keep at the top of your list and be able to easily access and come back to. Here we're going to go ahead and pin this particular comment that, again, I'm surprised that Jeff's in here saying anything, but let's go ahead and pin this. So we'll take a look. You'll see the pin option if you hover over the comment. And then as soon as you go ahead and pin that comment, you'll now have that comment at the top there, the little pin icon, and from a notification standpoint, again, you'll be able to see new comment, and now we have a pinned comment, which when we hover over that, we'll be able to see what the comment was that was pinned. So a lot going on with comments. I'm super excited about it. I think it's only going to enhance your communication and collaboration within your improvement work. I'm going to invite Greg back up.
All right, all right. We are going to now talk about all the enhancements we've made to items. Let's talk a little bit about the share and the notify in current version of KaiNexus. So when you click on the share, you get the ability to quickly copy a link. And when you click on the notify, you get the ability to send a notification inside KaiNexus. So what do those look like? So when I click on share, you're going to get a screen that looks something like this. You're going to click on the copy, and now in your clipboard you have the link, and presumably you're going to send it in an email or you'll text it to someone or however you're going to communicate it. But you're basically sharing that outside of the KaiNexus framework. So what are we doing when we notify? Well, in notify, you're picking who you want and you're picking the location, and KaiNexus will send the notification out. And we realize that notification or notify and share are kind of the different sides of the same coin. You're really doing a very similar action. And we realized with the frequency that we were grabbing links to items as well, and then you have to click the ellipse and this and that. So we're going to not only kind of rethink the entire experience, but we're also going to make it a lot easier to use, we believe. All right, let's see what we have. So to share now, you will literally, we're going to hover over the number. When you hover over the number, a little link will appear. When you click on that link, you are going to immediately copy that link to your clipboard, and you're off to the races using it. So what's going to happen now in the ellipse? So now when we go ahead and we click on the ellipse, there's a single share function. We're combining the old share and the notify function into one unified experience. So if you're down in the ellipse, then we go ahead and click. We see there's a single window here called share. We've completely reorganized the options down there. I don't know if you noticed on the notify, it's complicated, it's a little bit buried. People that we would think of as KaiNexus experts or KaiNexperts don't even know about the feature, and it's just complicated. So we rethought through share and thought, well, really, you're either sharing with a person or a location. And so that's how we're dividing that screen. And then if you're here and you just were always used to clicking share for the link, well, then right at the bottom right, we're just giving you the ability to click there and still capture your link. So we think you're going to really like the share and the notify feature a lot better in 2.4. Who here has deleted something in KaiNexus and then said, oh my gosh, I deleted the wrong thing and I don't know what to do? Go ahead. I know you have, because you've emailed support or you've emailed one of your customer experience people, and we're like, sorry. So we've added a brand new concept, and we just came up with a name all by ourselves. We call it archive. So when you archive something now, it's right down there next to delete, and it does a whole bunch of different things. For one, it doesn't delete it. So it is there for access in the future. It cannot be edited once it's archived. It's going to be excluded from all reports. It's going to be excluded from lists by default, but you can go into some configuration areas of your list and say, I want to search through archived things. The team is going to get notified that the item has been archived, and it's just going to kind of stay in the background in whatever state it was in with regard to its status and milestones and dependencies. It's just kind of, we're not going to delete any of those. And you're going to also, most importantly, be able to unarchive it if you want. So let's take a look. Go, please. Yeah. Because what would archive be without unarchive, right? So there was a big debate about what color archive should be, right? We've got blue is accounted for, about 18 different shades of green are accounted for, red is accounted for, several different blacks are accounted for, and so a vote came out for this color to be archived. So we have a purple status. And if you want to unarchive it, you just click on the status picker, and you can simply unarchive it, and it's back to exactly the state that it was in. So what's interesting about archive is the customer that appealed for this the most was really looking for a way to not lose information, but not affect reports. And once I heard about it, I was like, I mean, how have we not had archive status? This is going to help people. Instead of deleting, we would highly recommend, unless you're 100% certain, just go ahead and archive it, especially if it has a lot of information in there to begin with, because it won't affect any of your reports. It's not going to affect your notifications. It's not going to affect your lists unless you want it to affect your lists and you're trying to go through something. We think you guys are going to love archive. Charts. There's a ton that we did with charts, and I'm just going to show you a list and talk a little bit about them. So if you are doing a lot with charts, I know someone's ecstatic right now if they went down about 3 or 4 down there. If you are doing a lot with importing and exporting charts, the tab structure is confusing because it only shows you the chart ID. We're making that entire system a lot more flexible when you're uploading and exporting charts. Charts are now going to respect an organization's time zone. Time zones are a bit of a nightmare in general, aside from trying to figure out, is East time before us or after us or whatnot? It causes a lot of, thank you. It causes a lot of confusion because we have, most of our customers have users in different time zones, and the system is looking at time zones and tracking time zones and all that. What's interesting is I know we had an international customer of the year, but 20% of our customers are international customers. They are not based in the US. And so getting time zones right is something that we are pulling our hair out. And so now the chart import is going to respect time zones. We are going to allow you to specify time on your data entries in your charts. So you can now have multiple data entries for one date. So if you're running 3 shifts, for instance, you saw how many manufacturing organizations we have. You can put multiple data points in. And we truly have what we can be proud of as a chart API. The multi-chart importer is now going to be an automated, utilizing the API token, and that is very meaningful to some people in this room. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Rippey.
Let's talk Milestones for a minute. Milestones is an add-on module with KaiNexus. Milestones allows you to have a very distinct configurable workflow for your items. And there's really 2 ways to look at milestones as we've worked with a lot of customers. You have milestones that are being used as approvals. So let's say, for example, if you have an improvement that someone says is going to save the company $1 million, and you might want to have finance look at that first, you can use a milestone to kind of put that in place. The other way milestones are used are for stages. So let's say you're following a PDCA or a DMAIC, and you kind of want to go through each of those stages on the item. You might set up milestones that way as well. So one of the things, after much discussion with you, Mr. McGowan, is let's go ahead and incorporate some deadlines on milestones. Now, before we get too deep into this, I do want to give some background. I've gone in, I've configured an item in the system, and so the first milestone on this item is going to be triggered as soon as this goes into an active status. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So for this particular item, we're going with the stages. We're following the PDCA cycle. So we see the PDCA, we're going to be focusing specifically on plan right now. So if we click into plans specifically, this is everything specific to this milestone. So for those customers that are using Milestones, you might remember that every time you click on a milestone or click on that little pencil icon in the top right, it brings up all of your milestones. Now when you click on an individual milestone, it will only bring up the information on that milestone. You'll be able to get to all of them by just clicking on the little pencil. Greg told me to say that so that everybody was going to clap, so thanks. So what exactly are we looking at here? In this case, plan is, we have a ready deadline of 5 days. So we need to make this plan ready for approval within the next 5 days of this item. Now we also have an approval deadline. So once it's been made ready for approval, we're going to have 2 days for that specific leader to go in there and approve that deadline. You follow me so far, Mike? Okay. If we hover over plan, we'll see that right now we don't have anything going on. I mentioned earlier that this is all going to start to get triggered once we have an active item. And so now we see here that the item has been made active. We have gone in and said, okay, our plan is ready for approval. And so when we click into that specific plan milestone, we'll see that we have our ready deadline, we have the date that it's been made ready, and then we'll see that approval deadline. So I mentioned earlier it's going to be 2 days after. Right now this is ready for approval, and we have 2 days for that person to acknowledge that and go ahead and approve the milestone. We have set up notifications for deadlines on milestones. So you'll be able to set those up in your organization. You can also visualize these really well by setting up a board in KaiNexus, having some columns to visualize those milestones and where things are at. If we hover over this plan now, we have a whole bunch of information. We know that it's ready for approval. We'll see the date that it was made ready, and we'll see where our approval deadline is as well by hovering over the milestone. So once our leader is ready to go in and approve that milestone, they'll click in and they'll go ahead and approve. And we can go ahead and save that. And so now when we come back and take a look at our milestones, we hover over plan, we can see it's approved. We can see the date that it was made ready. We can see the date that it was approved on. And we have triggered it to now move into our due stage of the milestones. That was milestones. All right, I'm also going to talk a little bit about people. I'm actually excited about a couple of the features that I'm going to show you guys. They're not as extravagant as the comments and milestones and everything we went over, but I think you're going to appreciate the value behind some of these. So the first thing I want to take a look at here is configurable user attributes. So for those of you familiar with KaiNexus, you've always had 4 stock options of user attributes. Those included title, position, employee type, and certifications. Some of you may be taking advantage of these. Some of you may not. Some of you might be seeing this for the very first time and have no idea what this is. Essentially, these add an additional layer of filtering in KaiNexus for specific users. So if you wanted to go in and find all of your users that have a black belt certification, it allows you to do that with that new filter criteria. So what did we do? Well, here we see employee statuses, so that's our employee type. We are now giving you the ability to configure these. So maybe you don't want to use one of those 4 stock options. Maybe, for example, you want to have an option for country. Greg mentioned we have a lot of customers that are overseas, and they have divisions that are across the globe, right? And so if you want to be able to filter down your users based on what country they're in, maybe you don't use employee statuses. Maybe you want to change that to countries, and now you have this brand new user attribute that you can take advantage of. So this is super powerful. You essentially have 4 user attributes that you can take advantage of and be creative with. Thank you. And so the last thing I want to point out here, this is something that I personally advocated for. You are never able to go in and filter down a list of users based on your current location. So if I wanted to see everyone that is in my department and working in KaiNexus, you could get there, but it would take a little while. So I think this is super powerful. It not only allows you to now see everybody that's in your department, but Throw a people list card on a My Board, and now I can easily see anytime any new users have been added into KaiNexus and they're in my department and I'm working with them. Just allows you to know who else is in there working with you in KaiNexus as well. So I like this feature, and I think you guys will like it too. Back to you, Greg.
Okay, where are we headed? I mean, there's really a lot in this version, so I just have a list here. You are going to be able to configure activation emails with a lot more fidelity, so you can include some of your own text. You can put in your own logo in that. You can make it look like it's coming from a specific user. You can identify who you want the reply to be, so it doesn't go into a black box. We have a ton of customers that have used lots of attributes, and they've cluttered up the system with unused attributes. You can now archive attributes. You will be able to nest improvements and incidences if you are an incident user. You will be able to grant the privilege or the ability for a responsible person to change the due date if they do not have that permission normally. You can grant it on a specific item. And finally, you'll now be able to export the last comment field on lists when you're doing your export. We have a couple of customers that are rolling out literally to, I think, around 10,000 users, and they're training almost 200 users a week. They have a fairly large team that are working, and they were experiencing where people were getting the activation email and they just simply didn't recognize it as an important email. And so if they are now going to see their own logo, they're going to identify it as, oh, this is an important email coming in from my organization. And so we anticipate this really making it a lot easier to be able to not only have your users identify, oh, this is coming from my organization, number one, but then also to put in some of your own text to help identify what kind of the next steps are. All right. You're probably waiting for what I usually say. There's actually just one more thing. Go ahead, you can laugh. It's my Steve Jobs throwback. But there's one more thing, and that is recurring items. We have been waiting to develop this for years, and we have done, I think, a phenomenal job. The use cases that we identified for recurring items are boundless, but essentially, there's certainly the more common thought processes of, oh, I want to update a chart at a certain interval. But also, there is audit implications. Some people are doing audits on every Monday, and they want a template to be generated. So I'm excited to see how you guys use it. Let's take a look at what it looks like. So go ahead. If you have configured your template to be a recurring item, you will get a recur on your ellipse. When you click on recur, you're going to get a screen that looks a lot like this. So the first question is do you want to make it recurring? Yes, I'd like to make this recurring. It's a lot of internal debate about what a recurring item is, and we realize there's really two flavors on a recurring item. Are you thinking of the same item recurring, or are you thinking of an item that generates a new item every time it recurs? And so we decided to give both options, and we're excited to see what. Please let your customer experience folks know how you're ending up using this, because I'm really excited to see the use cases here. If we click on reopen, you are then going to get the ability to determine the frequency. Do you want this to recur immediately, at which point it would go into active, or do you want this to recur in the future, at which point it will go into planned? So in this case, I'm going to say I want this to recur in the future on a certain day of the week. Okay, so now this configuration will bring up all of your days of the week. We're going to go ahead and select Monday. Now the question is okay, great. So you want this to reopen and occur on Monday of every week. And how many days do you want to set for the due date? And in this case, we've selected Monday, and we have set the due date for 2 days. So If you have set this recurring item up to reopen and you complete it on a Friday, then on Monday it will recur and it will have a due date of Wednesday. Isn't that pretty cool? So what happens if you want to create a new copy? Meaning you want to kind of create this template that's going to spawn new items at some kind of frequency. Okay. So we've now selected the other option. The first question you get is, do you want to go ahead and copy the fields and attributes that you put into that item? Or do you want those fields and attributes to be blank? There are use cases for both. This is one of those things you're just going to have to play with it and all of a sudden realize, oh, I could totally see a use case for wanting the fields and attributes to be blank every time a new copy is created. But I also could see that I want some things that are pre-populated. We're going to go ahead now and select the frequency. So in this case, I want to show you guys what it looks like when you pick the day of the month. So if we pick the day of the month, in this case, we are going to pick the first day of the month. So on the first day of the month, I want to set an item to go active, and it's going to have 5-day due date. That's what we've configured here. When you're looking at an item, and if you're trying to figure out, is this a recurring item or not, you will notice there will be a new icon to the status picker, and you'll know that this is a recurring item. So 2.4 has a whole bunch of improvements, major improvements to boards, lists, comments, items, charts, milestones, and people. And I'm really not kidding. There's even more in there. So please, when all the notifications come out about this, sink your teeth in them because you're going to get a ton of benefit to understand them. And you're probably wondering, Greg, when is it going to be released? It's going to take a little bit of time. And so we're going to release it on October of 2020. I'm just joking, Chris. I was just playing with everybody. No, in all seriousness, it's going to be released in October of this year, and that is 2.4.